My mother-in-law threw me out of her house 3 hours after I gave birth to her first grandchild. She called me a liar, a cheat, and worse, all because my daughter had green eyes. But what she didn't know was that I had her son's medical records in my hospital bag, and they were about to destroy everything she thought she knew. My name is Emma. I'm 29 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. My husband Daniel and I had been together for 5 years, married for 3. We lived in Denver, both of us working in tech, saving up for our first house. Life was good, really good. But there was one crack in our foundation. One person who made everything just a little bit harder. Daniel's mother, Patricia. Now, I know everyone says they have a difficult mother-in-law, but Patricia, she was something else entirely. And I'm not talking about the usual stuff, the passive-aggressive comments about my cooking or how I folded towels. No, Patricia had convinced herself somewhere deep in her soul that I wasn't good enough for her son, that I had somehow trapped him, that our marriage was a mistake, and when I got pregnant, that's when things got truly ugly. Because Patricia didn't just think I was wrong for Daniel, she thought I was lying about something much, much bigger. And 3 hours after I gave birth to our daughter Lily, she finally said it out loud, in front of nurses, in front of my husband. In front of me, still bleeding, still stitched up, holding my newborn baby. She accused me of cheating. Said the baby wasn't Daniel's, and demanded we leave her house immediately. But here's the thing about karma. Sometimes it doesn't just knock. Sometimes it kicks the door down. And I was holding the key. Let me take you back to the beginning. Back when I actually thought Patricia and I could have a relationship. Daniel and I met at a tech conference in Austin. He was presenting on cloud infrastructure, and I was there representing my company's cybersecurity division. We ended up at the same happy hour, started talking about our mutual hatred of small talk at networking events, and didn't stop talking for 6 hours. He was kind, funny, had this way of listening that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We did long distance for 8 months before I moved to Denver to be with him. A year after that, he proposed on a hiking trail in Rocky Mountain National Park. It was perfect. He was perfect. Meeting his mom, though, that should have been my first warning sign. We drove to her house in Boulder, this beautiful craftsman-style home with a manicured lawn and a garden that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Daniel had told me his dad passed away when he was in college, and that his mom had never really recovered. She threw herself into her garden, her book club, her volunteer work at the library. He was her only child. Her whole world. I understood that, I really did. I'd lost my own father when I was 16, so I knew what grief could do to a person. I thought that would be common ground for us. Patricia opened the door wearing pearls and a cardigan that probably cost more than my rent. She looked me up and down, and I mean literally eyes traveling from my shoes to my hair, before she smiled. It wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile you give someone when you're being polite, but would rather they left. "So you're Emma," she said. "Not nice to meet you. Not, Daniel's told me so much about you. Just, so you're Emma." Dinner was painful. She asked about my family, my job, my education. But it felt less like getting to know me and more like interrogation. Where did I go to college? What did my mother do for work? Did I have siblings? What part of town did I grow up in? Daniel didn't notice. Or maybe he did and just didn't want to acknowledge it. On the drive home, he asked me what I thought of her. "She's protective," I said carefully. He laughed. "Yeah, she takes some warming up to. But she'll love you once she gets to know you." Spoiler alert. She didn't. Over the next 2 years I tried. God, I tried. I sent her flowers on her birthday. I invited her to lunch. I asked her advice on decorating our apartment. I complimented her garden, her cooking, her taste in books. I showed up to every family dinner with a smile and a bottle of wine, and she tolerated me. That's the best word for it. Tolerated. She never complimented me back. Never asked about my life unless Daniel was in the room. When we announced our engagement, she said, "Well, that's wonderful," in the same tone you'd use to acknowledge that someone told you it might rain tomorrow. At our wedding, she wore white, not ivory. Not cream, white. A full white gown with lace sleeves. My maid of honor saw it and whispered, "Is she serious right now?" Daniel confronted her. I heard them in the hallway of the venue before the ceremony. He said, "Mom, you can't wear that. It's disrespectful." And she said, "I'll never forget this." Disrespectful? I'm your mother. I have every right to look my best at my son's wedding. If Emma has a problem with it, maybe she's not as confident in this marriage as she should be. He came back looking defeated. "I'm sorry," he said. "She won't change, but it's just one day. Let's not let her ruin it." So I didn't. I smiled through the ceremony. I danced at the reception. I pretended not to notice the relatives whispering about Patricia's dress, and I told myself it would get better. I should have seen the signs. Things went quiet for a while after the wedding. Patricia kept her distance, which honestly was a relief. Daniel and I settled into married life. We traveled a little. We adopted a dog. We talked about starting a family, but decided to wait a couple years. Life was good, but then Daniel got sick. It started small, fatigue, some dizziness, a weird rash on his chest. He brushed it off at first, said it was work stress. But it got worse. Migraines that left him bedridden, joint pain, memory issues. I finally dragged him to a doctor, then a specialist, then another specialist. After 3 months and a dozen tests, they diagnosed him with Lyme disease, late stage, chronic. He'd probably had it for years without knowing. The treatment was brutal. Antibiotics, 4 infusions, medications that made him nauseous and exhausted. I took time off work to help him through it. We burned through our savings paying for specialists that insurance didn't cover. And Patricia, she blamed me. I'm not exaggerating. She actually said out loud, "He was perfectly healthy before he met you." As if I'd given him Lyme disease. As if loving me had somehow poisoned him. Daniel defended me. "Mom, that's ridiculous. This has nothing to do with Emma." But she just pursed her lips and said, "If you say so." It took almost a year for Daniel to recover. And during that time, I saw a side of him I hadn't expected. He was vulnerable, scared, and leaning on his mom more than ever. And she was there, constantly, bringing him soup, doing his laundry, sitting with him when I was at work, which was kind, I guess. But it also felt like she was reclaiming him. Like she was reminding him that she was the one who really took care of him. Not me. When he finally started feeling better, we decided to try for a baby. We were both 28, stable in our careers again, and ready. I got pregnant on the second try. When we told Patricia, she went silent, just stared at us across her dining room table. Well, she finally said, "I hope you're ready for the responsibility, not congratulations." Not, "I'm so excited to be a grandmother." Just, a warning. Like I was a teenager who'd gotten knocked up by accident. Daniel's smile faltered. "Mom, come on. Be happy for us." She stood up and started clearing dishes. "I am, Daniel. I just want to make sure you've thought this through." The pregnancy was rough. I had hyperemesis gravidarum, severe morning sickness that landed me in the hospital twice for dehydration. I lost 15 pounds in the first trimester. I couldn't work. I could barely function. Patricia never once called to check on me. She called Daniel every day, asked how he was holding up. Said things like, "This must be so hard on you, and make sure you're taking care of yourself." As if I wasn't the one puking 12 times a day. But here's where it gets worse. Around my 20th week, we found out we were having a girl. We were over the moon. Daniel cried when the ultrasound tech told us. We started picking out names, decorating the nursery, dreaming about the future. We told Patricia at Sunday dinner. She smiled, that same tight fake smile, and said, "A girl. How unexpected." "What do you mean, unexpected?" I asked. She waved her hand. Oh, nothing. It's just that Daniel was such an easy baby. Boys usually are. Girls can be so difficult. Daniel laughed it off, but I felt the sting. She was already setting the stage, already finding ways to make this about how hard I was going to make her son's life. Then, at my baby shower, which my best friend hosted because Patricia offered and I knew better than to let her, Patricia gave a speech. She stood up in front of all my friends and family and said, "I just want to say how proud I am of my son. He's going to be such a wonderful father, and Emma." Well, I'm sure she'd do her best. People laughed. They thought she was joking, but I saw her face. She wasn't. My friend Jenna grabbed my hand under the table. "What the hell was that?" she whispered. I just shook my head. "It's fine, it's just how she is." But it wasn't fine. And it was about to get so much worse. At 36 weeks, things got complicated. I developed preeclampsia, dangerously high blood pressure that put both me and the baby at risk. My doctor put me on bed rest and said if things didn't improve, they'd have to induce early. We needed help. Our apartment was a third-floor walk-up, and I couldn't handle the stairs in my condition. Daniel was back at work full-time, trying to make up for the income we'd lost during my sick leave. So he asked his mom if we could stay with her for a few weeks, just until the baby came. I didn't want to. I told him I'd rather hire a nurse or ask my friend to stay with me, but he insisted. "She wants to help," he said. "And she has that big guest room." It makes sense. So we moved into Patricia's house. The first few days were tense. She was polite, brought me tea, asked if I needed anything. But there was this coldness underneath it all. Like she was doing a duty, not offering genuine care. Then, at 38 weeks, my water broke. It was 2 a.m. Daniel rushed me to the hospital. Patricia stayed behind, said she'd come in the morning once we were settled. Labor was long. 22 hours of contractions, back pain, exhaustion. Daniel was amazing, held my hand, breathed with me, told me I was strong even when I was screaming that I couldn't do it. And at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday in October, our daughter was born, Lily Rose Bennett. 6 pounds 9 ounces. Perfect. She had a full head of dark hair, Daniel's nose, my chin. And when she opened her eyes for the first time, they were this stunning, bright green. The nurse smiled. "Oh, look at those eyes. She's going to be a heartbreaker." Daniel was crying, kissing my forehead, whispering, "You did it. She's perfect. You're perfect." I was exhausted, shaking, high on adrenaline and oxytocin. But I'd never been happier. Patricia arrived 3 hours later. She walked into the hospital room with a bouquet of flowers and a tight smile. Daniel was holding Lily, showing her off like the proud dad he was. "Mom, look at her. Isn't she beautiful?" Patricia stepped closer, looked down at the baby, and her face changed. It went from neutral to confused to something I can only describe as horrified. "Daniel," she said slowly, "what color are her eyes?" He laughed. "Green. Isn't it amazing?" The nurse said they might change, but... "Green," Patricia repeated. She looked at me, then back at Daniel, then at me again. And then she said it. "Daniel, no one in our family has green eyes. Not your father, not me, not your grandparents. Not anyone." The room went quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the machines beeping, the distant sound of a baby crying in another room. Daniel frowned. "So, Emma has green eyes. That's where she got them." Patricia's voice went ice cold. "That's not how genetics work, Daniel." My stomach dropped. "Mom, what are you saying?" Daniel asked, his voice tight. She turned to me. "I'm saying that I think Emma needs to be honest with you. Because that baby doesn't look like you, Daniel. She doesn't look like anyone in our family." I couldn't breathe. "Are you serious right now?" "I'm just stating facts," Patricia said, her voice sharp. "Green eyes are recessive. You have brown eyes, Daniel." "If Emma's the only one with green, then statistically stop," Daniel said. His voice cracked. Just stop. But she didn't. I'm not trying to upset you, sweetheart. I'm trying to protect you. You deserve to know the truth. I was shaking. Get out. Excuse me? Patricia said, looking at me like I was dirt on her shoe. Get out, I repeated, louder this time. Get out of this room right now. She straightened up, clutching her purse. Daniel, are you going to let her speak to me like this? He looked at her, then at me. Then at Lily, still sleeping peacefully in his arms. Mom, he said quietly, you should go. Patricia's face went red. You're really going to choose her over your own mother? When she's clearly lying to you. She's not lying, Daniel shouted. Lily startled and started to cry. Patricia's expression twisted into something cruel. Fine, but when that DNA test proves I'm right, don't come crying to me. And then she looked at me one last time and said, You're not welcome in my home. Pack your things. I want you out tonight. She left. The door swung shut behind her. Daniel and I sat there in silence, Lily crying between us, and I felt my entire world collapsing. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, numb, staring at the wall while Daniel tried to calm Lily down. He was shaking. I could see it in his hands, in the way he kept blinking like he was trying to reset his brain. She didn't mean it, he finally said. His voice sounded hollow. I laughed. It came out bitter. She absolutely meant it, Daniel. She's old-fashioned. She doesn't understand genetics. She called me a cheater, I said, my voice breaking. 3 hours after I gave birth to your daughter. She threw us out of her house. He sat down on the edge of my hospital bed, still holding Lily. I know, I'll talk to her. I'll fix this. You can't fix this, I whispered. But the worst part? The part that still makes me sick to think about. For just a second, just one horrible, fleeting second, I saw doubt in his eyes. He looked at Lily, at her green eyes, and then at me, and I knew that somewhere in his mind, his mother's poison had taken root. You believe her, I said. No, he said quickly. No, I don't. You just what? He closed his eyes. I just need to understand. My mom's right that no one in my family has green eyes. And I don't know anything about your dad's side because he's been gone since you were a kid, so I need to understand how this is possible. I felt like I'd been slapped. Are you asking me to prove our daughter is yours? No, he said, but his voice was weak. I'm just trying to make sense of it. I turned away from him, stared at the window, at the dark sky outside. Get out, I said. Emma, I said get out. Go talk to your mother. Clearly she's the one you trust. He left. Took Lily to the nursery so I could rest, but I didn't rest. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling everything I thought I knew crumble around me. And that's when I remembered, 3 years ago, when Daniel was at his sickest. When we were seeing specialist after specialist, trying to figure out why his body was attacking itself. They'd run genetic tests, panels to check for hereditary conditions that might explain his symptoms. They needed detailed family health histories, and they found something. I'd been with him at the appointment when the genetic counselor explained it. She'd said, Mr. Bennett, there's something unusual in your results. You have a gene mutation that's very rare. It's recessive, which means you inherited it from both parents. And it's associated with red or green eye pigmentation, even if neither parent expresses it visibly. Daniel had barely paid attention. He'd been more worried about the Lyme results. But I'd listened, I'd asked questions, and I kept the file. Because I'm the kind of person who keeps everything. Medical records, tax documents, receipts from 3 years ago, I keep it all. And that file was in my hospital bag. The one I'd packed weeks ago with all our important documents, insurance cards, birth plan, social security cards. I reached for the bag with shaking hands, dug through the folders, and there it was. A genetic test report from Colorado Genomics Institute, dated February 2022. Daniel's name at the top. And on page 3, in clinical black and white, text. Patient carries 2 copies of the OCA2 gene variant associated with green or hazel eye pigmentation. This recessive trait may be expressed in offspring if the partner also carries a compatible allele. I took a photo of it with my phone. And then I called my best friend Jenna. I need you to do something for me, I said when she answered. Emma? Are you okay? How's the baby? I need you to find me a family lawyer tomorrow, first thing. There was a pause. What happened? I told her everything, and when I was done she was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I'm going to destroy that woman. No, I said. I'm going to destroy her. But I need you to help me do it the right way. The next morning, Daniel came back to the hospital. He looked like he hadn't slept. I talked to my mom, he said. I didn't look at him. Just kept my eyes on Lily, asleep in the bassinet beside me. She said she's sorry, she was just surprised. She wants us to come back to the house. I laughed. No, Emma, she accused me of cheating Daniel. She kicked us out. And you let her. I didn't. You doubted me, I said, finally looking at him. You stood there and looked at our daughter and wondered if she was yours. His face crumpled. I'm sorry. I was confused, and do you want a DNA test? I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. He froze. What? Do you want a paternity test? Yes or no? He looked down at his hands. No, I trust you. That's not what I asked. A long silence. I don't want one, he said finally, but my mom. She's in my head, and then get one, I said. But know this. When it comes back and proves that Lily is 100% your daughter, I will never forget that you doubted me. And your mother will never be allowed near my child again. He nodded slowly. Okay, we did the test that afternoon. A simple cheek swab for both of them, results in 3 to 5 business days. And then I called the lawyer Jenna had found. Her name was Diane Carter, a family law attorney in her 50s with a reputation for taking no prisoners. She met me at the hospital the next day. I told her everything, the years of disrespect, the accusation, the eviction, the doubt Patricia had planted in Daniel's mind. What do you want? Diane asked. I want her to admit she was wrong, I said, publicly. In front of everyone she told that I was a cheater. Diane raised an eyebrow. Did she tell people? I pulled out my phone. Showed her the screenshots. Because here's the thing. While I was in the hospital, Patricia had been busy. She'd called her sisters, her book club, her church friends. And my friend Sarah, who went to the same church, had overheard. Patricia had told at least a dozen people that her son's wife had cheated on him, that the baby wasn't his, that she'd always known I was trouble. Sarah had texted me, I'm so sorry, but I think you should know what people are saying. Dan read through the messages. Her expression hardened. This is defamation, she said. Clear cut. Especially if the DNA test proves her wrong. It will, I said. Then we'll send her a cease and desist letter the moment you have those results. And if she doesn't issue a public apology and retraction, we'll sue for damages. I don't want money, I said. Then what do you want? I thought about it. About the wedding dress, the cruel comments, the years of being treated like I wasn't good enough. I want her to understand that actions have consequences, I said. I want her to feel a fraction of the humiliation she put me through, Diane smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I think we can arrange that. The DNA results came back 4 days later. Daniel and I were back at our apartment. We'd packed up our things from Patricia's house while she was at her book club. She'd left me one voicemail saying we were overreacting and that she just wanted clarity. I didn't respond. The email from the testing company came at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Daniel opened it. I watched his face. He read it once, then again. Then he looked up at me with tears streaming down his face. 99.9997% probability of paternity, he whispered. She's mine. I know, I said. He broke down, just collapsed on the couch, sobbing. I'm so sorry, Emma, I'm so sorry. I should never have doubted you. I sat next to him, put my hand on his shoulder. I forgive you, I said quietly, but you need to understand something. Your mother destroyed my trust, not just in her, in you, in us. And I don't know if I can ever get that back. He nodded, unable to speak. But right now, I continued, we need to focus on Lily, and we need to make sure your mother never, ever does this to another person again. I showed him the screenshots. The messages from Sarah, the proof that Patricia had been spreading lies about me to everyone who would listen. His face went white. Then red. She told her sisters, and her church, and her book club. Oh my God, he whispered. I handed him my phone. Call her. Tell her to meet us at Diane's office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Tell her if she doesn't show, we're filing a defamation lawsuit by noon. He stared at me. You're serious? Completely. He made the call. I could hear Patricia's voice on the other end, confused at first, then defensive, then angry. This is ridiculous, she said. I don't need a lawyer. I didn't do anything wrong. You called my wife a cheater, Daniel said. His voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. You spread lies about her to everyone you know. And now we have proof that you were wrong. Silence. The DNA test came back. Lily is my daughter. And if you don't show up tomorrow and fix this, Emma's lawyer is going to make sure everyone knows what you did. Patricia tried to argue. Tried to say she was just protecting him. But Daniel hung up. He looked at me. She be there. The next morning we walked into Diane's office with Lily in her carrier. Patricia was already there. Sitting stiffly in a leather chair, wearing a navy suit like she was going to court. She didn't look at me. Just kept her eyes on Daniel. Diane didn't waste time. She laid out the DNA results on the table. Then the screenshots of Patricia's messages and the witness statements from Sarah and 2 other church members. Mrs. Bennett, Diane said, you told at least 12 people that your daughter-in-law committed adultery and that your granddaughter was not your son's child. These statements were false. They were made with malicious intent. And they have caused significant emotional distress to my client. Patricia's jaw tightened. I was protecting my son. You were defaming an innocent woman, Diane corrected. And now you have 2 choices. You can issue a formal apology to everyone you told, in writing and verbally. You can retract your statements publicly. And you can agree to supervised visitation with your granddaughter, pending Emma's approval. Supervised, Patricia started. Or, Diane continued, we file a defamation lawsuit. We pursue damages. And we make sure that every person you told, and their friends, and their families, knows that you lied. That you accused a new mother of infidelity with 0 evidence. That you threw your son and his wife out of your home based on nothing but your own prejudice. Patricia looked at Daniel. You're going to let her do this to me? He met her eyes. You did this to yourself, Mom. She turned to me. I was wrong about the DNA. I admit that. But you've never been right for him. You're cold. You're controlling. Stop talking, I said. My voice was steady, calm, but there was steel in it. You've hated me since the day we met. I've spent 5 years trying to earn your respect, your kindness, even just basic decency, and you've given me nothing. You wore white to my wedding. You blamed me for Daniel's illness. You told me I'd be a bad mother. And then, when I was at my most vulnerable, you called me a liar and threw me out. I stood up. Looked down at her. I don't need your apology for me. I know who I am. But you owe one to your son. And you owe one to your granddaughter. Because if you don't fix this, she will grow up knowing that her grandmother cared more about being right than about the truth. Patricia's hands were shaking. So here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to send an apology email to every single person you told. You're going to call your sisters. You're going to stand up in front of your book club and your church group and admit you were wrong. And then maybe, in a few months, when I've healed from this, I'll let you meet your granddaughter. And if I don't? Patricia asked. Then you'll never see her again, I said simply. Your choice. The room was silent. Patricia looked at Daniel one more time. Please, she whispered. He shook his head. You hurt her, Mom. Fix it. Or you lose us both. She crumbled then, started crying. Not the dignified kind of tears, the ugly kind. The kind where you realize you've destroyed something you can't get back. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, I thought. You didn't think, Daniel said. You assumed. And you hurt the woman I love. Patricia signed the agreement, agreed to send the apologies, agreed to the supervised visits. And as we walked out of that office, Lily asleep in my arms, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. That was 6 months ago. Patricia did send the apologies. Some of them were half-hearted, some were clearly written by a lawyer. But she sent them. And about 3 months ago, we let her meet Lily, for 1 hour, at a coffee shop, with both of us present. She cried the whole time, held Lily and told her how beautiful she was. How sorry she was. I didn't forgive her. Not fully. Maybe I never will. But I'm not angry anymore. Because here's what I learned. You can't control how people treat you. But you can control how you respond. And I responded by standing up for myself, for my daughter, for my family. Daniel and I are in couples therapy. Working through the trust issues. It's hard. Some days I still feel the sting of his doubt. But he shows up. He does the work. He's proven again and again that he chooses us. And Patricia. She's different now. Quieter. More careful. She asks permission before giving advice. She respects boundaries. I don't think she ever loved me. But I don't need her to. Because I have a daughter who looks at me like I hung the moon. I have a husband who's learning what it means to really protect his wife. And I have a voice that I'm not afraid to use anymore. So if there's a lesson here, it's this. Don't let anyone make you small. Don't let anyone tell you that standing up for yourself is wrong, or petty, or cruel. Because sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself, for your family, for your future, is to draw a line in the sand and say, no more. Lily's eyes are still green. Bright, beautiful, unmistakable green. And every time Patricia looks at her, I know she sees them. And I know she remembers the day she learned that being cruel has a cost. That's justice enough for me.